Hello and happy Friday. Woohoo! Happy Friday, everyone. Friday Night Lights. Welcome to Friday Night Live Dive. I am Christelle Robinson-Tiedemann. I am the host of the Love and Meaning podcast. In the Love and Meaning podcast, we discuss all things spirituality, personal development. It is my personal ode to inner work and everything related to making the meaning in your life and living a happiness forward life. And this is Friday Night Live Dive, where we bring the podcast to life and we discuss the topics, we embody, we make it meaningful, we really bring it to life. So welcome. Thank you for spending your Friday with me. As you come in, please say hello. Let me know what you're celebrating this week, and I'm so happy to have you. As you can see, my setup is a little back to normal today because I forgot my regular camera, but we will make do. We have Friday Night Lights, so all is well. So welcome, everybody. What am I celebrating this week? I am celebrating family. I got to hang out with my parents yesterday, and that meant the absolute world to me. I haven't seen them in a little while, so that was really nice. My parents came to visit, and I'm really grateful for that. So as you come in, let me know what it is that you are celebrating. So in Friday Night Live Dive, what we do, I don't like this angle. Let me just sort myself out. Okay. So what we do is we usually discuss the topic of the podcast, the podcast episode of that Monday. Sometimes I switch it up. This week we are going to be diving into this week's episode, which was back to basics, spiritual basics, core beliefs, and tools to help you to maintain your alignment. It was really interesting how I came to this topic, and I'll share with you a little bit about that. But you are welcome to ask me any questions, bring up any topic from any episode at all. You're welcome to bring up anything that resonates with you. You are welcome to ask me any human design questions, anything related to any of the episodes, you're welcome to, though we will focus mainly on the podcast episode from this week. Well, I will focus on that, but I love for this to be an interactive space. It's really about bringing our inner work to life, making our personal development meaningful and actually making change in our life. So in any way that I can be helpful to you to bringing this into your real life, that's what I want this space to be. So jump in here, ask your questions, write your comments, and let's have an interactive experience. But in the meantime, I will be discussing diving deep into the topic of the episode. So say hi as you come in. Let me know who you are. Let me know who's here. And let us know what it is that you're celebrating for this week. So to get started on tonight's live, I want to share a little story about something that happened today. It's like tangential to our topic for today, but it was really the timing of it. It was so meaningful. I wanted to share. And basically, what I wanted to say, like what this really brought to mind for me is you never know how the universe is moving in the background. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Think of the whole world, everything is a movie, and like we're in our scene, but we don't know what's going on in other people's scenes, right? Let alone like the people that you know, but the people that you don't know. Like the universe is conspiring and you really don't know what's going on in the background. And we've been really focusing in Love and Meaning on intuition, on inner guidance, connecting with your inner compass. And my life just keeps showing me the truth deeper and deeper truth of this. And it's becoming more and more impactful. So yesterday I had coaching. And one of the things that I've been working on for myself is really diving deep into my own wounds and being able to challenge myself where I have triggers, where I have wounding. And so my coach gave me a challenge. And that challenge was to be able to share vulnerably with a person that you trust deeply while I'm in the midst of processing emotion, like while I'm still in the feeling. So for me, I my trigger response, like the way that I tend to be self-protective, the way that my own protectors come out is to separate myself. I'm very good at processing my emotions by myself, and then I'll reemerge and I can tell you what happened, but I don't do necessarily all that in front of somebody or really share that while it's going on. I tend to be a little more isolative in my healing. Like I need to do it on my own, or I have been doing it on my own. And those are some avoidant attachment traits. Okay. And so I'm really diving deep. And so this is where my challenge is. So for a person like me, it's actually more difficult to share when I'm in the emotion, to express when I'm in the emotion. For someone else who tends to be like a dumper or a venter or someone who kind of just like throws their emotions at other people, it would be helpful for them for their own wounding to learn to process on their own. So it really depends on you, what your own stuff is. So that's me. And so my coach gave me the challenge to pick someone who you really trust, someone that is a confidant that you can share with. And I challenge you to, before you've processed, before you've done the disappearing and going through it and then emerging and being like, guys, this is what happened. In it, I want you to share. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to share. I did not share. So that happened. So there's that. But I have the intention to. I vowed to. Okay. So I've made the commitment. That doesn't make it easy, but I've made the commitment to myself that I'm going to do this. When she said this as well, when my coach said this, I immediately knew who the person was going to be. I have an accountability partner. And oddly enough, last week, she had said to me, it's just a suggestion. I feel like it's something that could be really helpful for you. You might want to share with me some of the things that you're going through while you're processing it. So she already noticed this about me. And she volunteered herself as the person that could be the ear. So you're welcome to use me as that person to share with at any point while you're processing. I think it would be really helpful for you, and it would be my honor to be that person. So connecting dots. So that happened yesterday. Now, my accountability partner shares with me all the time. She shares with me all the time. And so she'll just send me an update voice note, like this is going on. I'm feeling this. I'm having a rough day. I'm having a great day. I'm celebrating. We do these things together. I'm good at sharing celebrations, but when I'm really going through something, I tend to be quieter. And so for some reason, this week, she's actually been sharing more than usual. And when she's sharing with me, she often says things like she says something like, I don't know if this is like too much. I'm sorry. No need to respond right away, but like I'm just going to share, blah, blah, blah. So, she's sharing a little more often this week. She has no idea that that I've made this vow to like dive deep into my own stuff and start to share and process my own processing. And for some reason, she's sharing more this week. So I have my coaching session yesterday. My coach tells me, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I didn't do it. And then I woke up this morning and I went into my journal and I was like, I am going to do this. I don't have it yet. Like I don't have the strength to do it yet, but I'm not going to be mad at myself. I'm happy that I have the awareness. I'm just proud of myself for having the awareness. So I patted myself on the back for having the awareness that I want to share, even though I did it. And I'm considering that a win. Next thing you know, like this is bright and early this morning, guys. I wake up at 5:30 a.m. I get a message from my accountability partner. And she says, This is like a totally unnecessary update, but blah, blah, blah. I'm going to share anyways. The timing of it, the fact that I had just written in my journal, the fact that I had coaching yesterday and I had vowed and then I still didn't do it. The timing of this message just did something for me. And it was like the motivation, the inspiration that I needed. And I was like, God bless you. And I shared, and I'm feeling really powerful, really proud of myself. And I shared with her my unprocessed emotions, stuff that I'm going through. And, you know, I said to her everything that I just shared with you guys right here. But the thing is, right, she didn't know any of this was going on in the background. She didn't know that I had made this vow to myself. She didn't know that I wanted to share it yesterday and was almost beating myself up, but then decided not to and was like, it's okay. I'm going to do it. She didn't know any of these things, but her own intuition had called on her to share with me for some reason, even more this week. And then the timing of this morning and the message starting with, this is a totally unnecessary update, but it was like the permission I needed. It was the example I needed. And the thing is like people in your life might not, I told her what this meant to me and how she got to hear from me the inner workings of the universe in the background, you know? But you don't actually know when you might be that person for somebody else. They're not necessarily going to tell you for whatever reason, or maybe they can't tell you because you're a stranger. You know what I mean? But you have no idea where, and she's questioning herself. She's messaging me and thinking to herself, my God, I'm oversharing. Oh my goodness. But like she let her intuition win and she went through with it. But it was exactly what was needed for her and for me. We so often are so blind only to our own experience that we don't think about how we could be impacting other people at all times in a positive and beautiful way with our truth. One of my favorite sayings is the frequency of truth is the most powerful frequency there is. And this to me ties right into intuition, the frequency of your truth, your flow. Her intuition called for her to share with me. And it was the exact truth that was needed for her, for me, and for this connection to happen. So we got to bond through my sharing. I got to have that safe space. I got to have that example of what to do. Like it was just such a full circle, beautiful experience. And it was something so, so, so tiny. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just the perfect example that we just don't know. You don't know how showing up in your truth, following your intuition, following your inner guidance is not just for you, but it actually has such a beautiful ripple effect on those around you, like far beyond the reaches that you could ever recognize, because we are only going to know the ones that people reflect back to us. But how many times are you positively affecting somebody when you follow your inner guidance, the thing that you were meant to do? And you made that person's day. It was the perfect lesson. It was the perfect example. It was exactly what they needed to hear. It was the kindness that they were waiting for, whatever it is. So I just want to start out today with like that really powerful message of you don't know how the universe is conspiring. And so when we follow our truth, when we follow our intuition, when we just do what we're guided to, the tiniest things have the hugest of impacts. Hi, Val. Hi, I'm not really celebrating today. I'm a little sad that my sister and her husband had to leave. I thought they would have stayed for a month. Oh, I guess I should celebrate that I had them for 12 days. Exactly. So you corrected yourself in the end. Woohoo! Yay! Sisterly love. We're celebrating the same thing because I'm also celebrating family. I'm so happy to have seen my parents. You got them for 12 days. Like, there's so much to celebrate there because we have those loving relationships. So I am celebrating alongside you. I love that. Thank you for sharing. So that's how I wanted to start out today. I want you to think about that. Like, think about Think about all the places, the ways, the things that can be happening that you have no idea about behind the scenes at all times. The way that you are really affecting other people and having this ripple effect in the world when you show up as your authentic self, in your truth, in what you're called to, following your heart. This was like this timing, this synchronicity this morning was such a huge win for me. Like it meant so, so, so much to me. And she actually responded later on and she's like, this brought tears to my eyes. Thank you for sharing this because this brought tears to my eyes because I do think sometimes like, oh my God, I'm sharing too much. But she has no idea that I'm sitting there and thinking, my goodness, I wish I could share that like that. And she's sitting there thinking like, my goodness, I should shut up. And we both need each other showing up exactly as we are. So show up in your truth. This is my first message for today. So the episode this week was a brief and amazing one, and I highly recommend that you go and check it out. So I listed 5 of my kind of core beliefs tools. I'm calling it back to basics because basically what's been going on is I've been really going in with myself, going into my emotions, going into the sticky, icky places, going into the uncomfortable places, poking them about, asking the universe to like just bring me the big stuff. And so I've really been, life has been bumping up against me. Like I'm really feeling some of those pressure points and I'm really being stretched to show up as my greatest self in all of my relationships, in my career, in my business. Like I'm being called to show up at another level. And I'm rising to that occasion most definitely. And my inner work growth has been like, it's a process. It happens in layers and I'm really growing. And the thing is, when we're growing, when we're learning something, think of anything that you know. Think of like in school, we go to university and you might be doing like super cyber nerd calculus, whatever. I'm not a math person, but imagine you're doing that. You can't forget about addition and subtraction and basic arithmetic. There's no version of knowing that level of math without having your elementary school basics down. And it's actually the same thing with our spirituality. And so I asked the universe to push my buttons, and my buttons have been pushed in the most beautiful way. And I'm really grateful for it. And when I found myself in these uncomfortable places, in these triggered places, I realized the thing I really needed in that moment was to go back to basics. So I highly recommend that you check out the episode to hear the 5 different basics. I'm not going to go over them in this live. You can go and check that out. It's a really short and sweet episode. But I forgot some of these things. Like one of them that was huge for me was you're never creating alone. I'm always creating with source, with God, with the universe, however you want to call it. I'm just making sure that I'm not missing any messages here. Okay. So I'm never creating alone. When I was getting deeper and deeper into what do I want for my business? What do I want to create? My deepest of desires. It's so easy to forget that this isn't just little old me against the world. Like I thought I was pushing a boulder for a second with my bare hands, forgetting that the universe, humanity has created bulldozers and I could just employ that to help me to pick it up. There were basics. There were things that I was forgetting in my tunnel vision of trying to make happen. I'm not making anything happen. I'm allowing things to happen and I'm taking steps and I'm making choices and I have aligned action but all of it is supported by source. This is something that you can't forget on any of the levels. And so, with the help of these trusted people in my life, my husband was one of them. He had like such an amazing conversation with me in the middle of last week while I was like freaking out. Um, I have good friends that I've been talking to, my mentors. It was like, oh my gosh, I got to get back to basics. I need to carry this with me. So, in this live dive, let's bring it back to the basics. What are those core beliefs? What are those core things that really solidify your mindset? They keep your heart in the right place. They remind you of what you're doing here, why you're doing it. They keep you focused, they keep you grounded. What are those things? So, in the episode, I identified 5 of them that matter so much to me. Yours might be different, but check them out. Let me know if you have different ones. What are the core things that you fall back on? But in today's live dive, I wanted to focus on one in particular that really came through for me this week. And that one was, I think it was the last one on my list. I think it was number 5. And it was remembering the path of least resistance. Abraham Hicks, when I learned law of attraction years ago, that was a statement that Abraham Hicks used to say, that the universe takes the path of least resistance. That's a lesson for us as well. And it was actually my husband that reminded me of this one. He asked me, how are you making, like, how can you make this as easy as possible? What is the easiest thing that you can do right now? Are you overcomplicating things? And I think that that is a beautiful touchstone for everybody to draw upon, to remember, to contemplate on. Are you overcomplicating things? Where in your life? And right now, I want to focus on like those big, fat, juicy desires that you have. It's usually the things that we want the most, where we try so hard that we make it hard. So, where are you overcomplicating things? Because I found myself big time overcomplicating things. It's almost sometimes like the more you know, the more knowledge you have, the more expertise you have, the more I've read, the more I've listened to. Like, it's too much. There's so much going on. There's so much knowledge. It's almost impossible to draw upon something. And I've made it this whole complicated thing. Learn. It reminds me of when I used to be in acting. I used to, oh, for those of you that don't know, way back in the day, I wanted to be an actor. And so when I was in acting school, one of the things that they taught us about learning your lines is you need to learn your lines so well that you can forget them. And it's the same thing. This makes me think of the same thing. It's like everything that I'm learning, all of the knowledge that I'm gaining, all of the growth, all of the ways that I'm diving deep in with myself and expanding my knowledge. At the end of the day, I have to be able to just walk, not just with a bunch of knowledge in my head, but with a knowingness in my body. And that comes down to core basics. Like that comes down to remembering things like, have I paused? Did I breathe? Am I moving my body? There's so many different areas of life where we refer to this, like in the 12-step program, in AA and they're not all, all the anonymouses, they have a saying, and I can't remember what the saying is, but it's something like, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you tired? Are you like, it has to do with when they find themselves in cravings, like, did you cover the basics? Like, do you need a nap? Do you need food? Do you need to drink some water? Do you need, like, are you thirsty? Did we cover these? And then from there, it's like the same thing with kids, like having a tantrum, like, are they tired? Are they hungry? There are basics that no matter what level we get to, that we need to always take care of, that we need to always have for grounding. And it's the same thing with the acting and the lines. Like, it's a conversation. When it's good acting, it just looks like a conversation. How does it look like that? How does it not look like somebody who's just saying words back to each other? Like, we know when we see that and it's like, this is awful. It doesn't look like that when someone knows their lines so well that they don't have to think about it. They just get to listen and it comes out. They just respond in the most natural way. You know it so deeply, then you forget it. These core things are those things we need to know so deeply. So I have gone back to what I was doing 8 years ago started, when I first entered into the spiritual world, when I first started learning about law of attraction, when I first, the beginning of my spiritual awakening. And that is writing down affirmations, making myself sticky notes, making myself cue card reminders. And they say things like, you are not creating alone. You are always creating with God. Substitute with whatever is meaningful to you, God, the universe, blah, blah, blah. So what is the easiest thing for you right now? And that can be applied to endless different scenarios, right? For me, it has been showing up a lot in my business where I'm overcomplicating the things that I need to do. I'm one person, making myself feel like I need to be in 50 different places. But in the reality, I don't actually have to do that, do I? I have an inner guidance to draw upon. I have energy towards things. Forcing myself to do something I have no energy for ended up being a huge waste of time when I had so much energy to be working on something else. It's better to work on that thing that comes out like this, delegate the other things, ask for help. There's so many different options, and I did all of the above. One of how this actually showed up for me very specifically is I was forcing myself to work on something, to create something that I just had to admit to myself, I didn't want to. I didn't want to do it. And I was torturing myself over it. I couldn't get myself to actually work on the thing. And I was freaking out because I was telling myself I'm lazy, I'm unmotivated, I suck at this, I'm incapable, uh, all of these things. I was creating the story. And then my husband was just like, are you overcomplicating this? Like, how can you make this easy? Like, there's definitely an easier access way. And then it was immediately like, coming from that frame of mind, it was like, oh, don't do it. Just, you have 50 other things that you want to do. Just do the other things. Oh, okay. Interesting. But it really felt hard. I had committed to it. I said I was going to do it. I'm looking like a flake. All of these things were caught up in it. When it could just be easy, and it could just be like, well, I'll do that another time. Or I can just no it people are going to appreciate what I'm doing well. People don't want something from me that I don't care about. What matters is, again, the frequency of truth. What is my truth? My truth is I want to do this. So do that. So this is for business. So that would be like, if you're creating a product, you're creating a course or whatever. One of my friends said, like, you're allowed to start a project and end it at any time. We forget. We force ourselves to do this all the time. Most of our designs in human design, we don't always want to follow through with something. Sometimes we're meant to just start it and pass it on, and someone else can continue it. There's collaboration. Who else can I bring in to help me with this? Who else might be better suited to do this idea? Maybe I can share it. There's so many other options. And so when I broke out of like trying to push a noodle, I realized like, oh, I'm not stuck. I'm not a horrible procrastinator. This is just not what I'm meant to be doing. And there's something else I can be putting my energy into. So that is an example for business, but this can be in so many other things. Like this can come into relationships. It can come into your corporate job, your 9 to 5 job. Like where are there ways that you are forcing yourself to make things really difficult at work rather than ask for help, rather than say, I need to push this deadline, rather than say, I would love it if someone can help me with this. Like where is there a very simple solution that you just didn't think of? Oftentimes, when we just get quiet, so pause, breathe, and then ask yourself, am I complicating this? How can I let this be easy? The answer comes. But where it really doesn't come is in our very heightened energetic state. When our nervous system is really worked up, it becomes very difficult to access the path of least resistance. And so I have now written down, follow the path of least resistance. Let it be easy. I used to think, so I've heard many other teachers say, let it be easy. And I used to think that what that meant was that everything that you want to create, it needs to feel easy if you want to create it. Like if it's meant for you to do it, it needs to feel easy. And that's not true. That is not true. I do not believe that. I know some people say that. They're like, well, if it's meant to be, it will just feel easy. No, that's not true. If you have a belief system where it's like, you can't create your own business, that's wild. Or you have a belief system that it's like, you can never date a successful person who doesn't have a bunch of problems. I've never seen that before. You have to pick someone who has tons of problems. I'm not good enough for that. When you haven't seen something before, no, it's not just easy. But what feels good inside of your body is the desire. You want it. The doing of it doesn't necessarily feel easy when it's something completely out of your norm, completely different than what you're used to. So that's what I used to think they were saying when let it be easy. I was like, but then I wouldn't do it. And I realized that let it be easy actually means, what is my first step? What is my closest access? What is my next step to this thing that is easily accessible for me on my path to this thing? That's how I let it be easy. So when we think about, okay, the only history I have is of dating really low quality people, like that don't bring anything positive to my life, that verbally abuse me, that have no growth mindset, not what you truly desire, but it's what you've seen. When you decide, okay, the next person I'm with, they're going to be smart, good looking, have lots of money, lots of friends, really social, very, very fun. All of these characteristics that feel like that person all put together doesn't exist. If you think about that, that feels so overwhelming. So overwhelming. But when you think about, okay, how do I break this down? If I want to attract this, I need to be the reciprocal of that. Okay, so how fun do I find myself? Like, I want to attract a fun person. I want to be a fun person. I think that's a reciprocal. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. What's a reciprocal of somebody who's fun? Someone who's open to fun. Okay. Am I open to fun? I don't know. Maybe I could start by like going to that arcade down the street, like this adult arcade that's super cool. It's like a bar slash arcade, and they have like really good tacos. And I might take myself there on Friday because that's fun. And I'm going to play a game. I don't know what I'm doing with that joystick, but I'm going to put that coin in and I'm going to play and whatever. I'm going to mess up and I'm going to lose all 3 of my lives in 10 seconds and it's fine. That's accessible. Like that is an accessible step. If somebody was zoomed in, they'd be like, what the heck does that have to do with attracting the most amazing person? It actually has everything to do with it. But it's an accessible step that you can break down and let it be easy. So if we break things down into manageable portions, palatable portions for ourselves, we let it be easy. We're doing the thing that gives us the easy access. We are working with the universe that, as we know, Abraham Hicks says, follows the path of least resistance. So let me know if anything is coming up for you. While I hydrate, I still have like a little bit of a tickle from that cold. That cold was super weird. It came in like a storm and then it was gone in like 2 days. How can this apply to you? It can apply to so many different ways. Like, is there something that you can break down? So think of the things that you really want to manifest right now, the things that you want to call into your life right now. And the things that feel overwhelming, that feel scary, that feel big, like, how can you let it be easy? I'm not saying it's easy. I'm with you on that. I don't think it's easy. It might be simple, but I don't think it's easy, right? So, what is that thing that you're trying to call in that you can do one little step towards? So, for example, if it's like, okay, haven't been dating, it's terrifying for me to think of it. Can I download the apps? One. Maybe I'll download one app. You know? Just one. You don't even have to set up a profile, but like download it and then sit with it on your phone and breathe and look at it and practice seeing it there and regulating your nervous system. That's not so hard, right? I mean, it might feel hard and scary, but it's a manageable step. It's not like, okay, go out now with the person, like, and your heart starts beating. It's like, okay, we're going to download. Let that be easy. That's one step. And then you go one step further. And then you can go one step further and one step further. And it's really surprising how we find ourselves getting closer and closer and closer to the thing that we want to manifest, the thing that we want to bring into our life when we kind of break it down into these manageable pieces, these manageable steps. So that's an example. If you guys can think of another example of how you can let it be easy in a way that applies to you, I would love to hear from you. It's really helpful if other people can draw upon everyone else's ideas. But I've been applying it to myself even with my job. So I am an occupational therapist and I have to see patients physically throughout the day. I work in mental health, and seeing my patients is the most fun part of my job. It is the absolutely most fun part of my job, and it gives me a lot of energy. Now, writing my notes, it don't give me energy. It's not fun. That's me. Maybe some people like that. That's not the fun part for me. I don't particularly love documentation, but it is a necessary part of my job and it has to be done. Like, did I even see the patient if you don't document it? So, strategies that I have to help myself with this, to let it be easy. I'm not saying it's easy, to let it be easy is to toggle those. So when I go and see a patient and I talk to them and I work with them, I get energy. That energy I can then come back to my office and put into writing a note. And then I can go back out onto the unit, get energy by my interaction, the part that I love. I can come back and I can write a note. That's one of the ways that I have found to let it be easy. I decided as a projector, we know projectors do not do great in the 9 to 5. And it is not ideal. This is absolutely for sure. But by my own choice, for my own plans for what I am doing, I've chosen to stay in my job for this time. And there are ways that I can maximize my strengths. There are ways that I can make it work for me rather than just like, oh, I can't do this. I don't have the energy. The day feels so long. I can, for example, I'm a morning person, do the most difficult aspects of the job during the morning and the easiest parts in the afternoon. What are ways that you can work with yourself? Even if you think about your chores in your household, how can you let it be easy? Is there a way that you like to do chores? For example, for me, if I'm listening to something, whether it's like a really great podcast, usually it's music. I like to boogie down a little bit while I clean. Music, or a really good podcast or a really good book. My favorite is fantasy books. My favorite are fantasy. Like I can do pretty boring things if I can listen to a fantasy novel at the same time. And so how can you let that be easy? I let it be easy by making it enjoyable in some other way. Is there timing? Like how in all the things in our life can we let it be easy? How can we reduce the complication? Where are we complicating things ourselves? This is the big question of today. And again, I'd love to hear your examples. If this is, let me know if it's resonating and if this you can think of something that I haven't mentioned in ways that this connects. One of the things this makes me think of is something my coach taught me. And um, it's interesting because I feel like I don't know that my husband knows this, but I feel like subconsciously he knows it, and I see him kind of try to redirect me in ways. But one of the things that she taught me pretty recently was that worry, the energy of worry, is a distraction. When we are like really worried about something, I'm worrying about this and I'm worrying about that, I'm worrying about this and I'm worrying about that. It's a freeze technique. It immobilizes you. And so if you actually dig deep, where are you using that worry to stall from moving from moving forward? I do that. That's definitely something that I see in myself. And it's not that it's obviously not conscious. I'm saying that we do this subconsciously. The anxiety, the feeling is real. It feels worrisome. But when I'm able to abrupt the process, like when you interrupt the process with the question of, okay, if I know that worry is a distraction, what am I distracting myself from? I'm distracting myself from it feels really scary to move forward with this thing because at, then you find out the truth of it. One, I'm scared that everyone's going to think it's terrible and I'd rather not do it than fail. Big to know. And then you can work on that. Or what happened with me is I don't actually want to do it. You don't want to do it. You're stalling because you don't want to do it. And so instead of doing this worry thing, working up yourself, having your nervous system out of whack, having your body be out of whack, wasting time, having negative self talk, making myself feel bad about myself, I can cut to the chase and say, look, you don't want to do it. This isn't the time, or it's just never going to be the time because you're not going to do it. Like you get to decide where you spend your time and what you put your creativity into. If you don't want to do it, we're moving on. I could sit there and waste time worrying and talk about how much I'm procrastinating instead, but I'm just stalling from moving on to working what it is that I want to. So I thought that was super helpful. And she said this in our in our group coaching, and there were some other people that found it really helpful. So I suspect that there are a lot of us out there that this resonates with. So where do you find yourself getting into worry energy, anxious energy? And if you ask yourself the question, if you ask yourself, okay, what am I distracting myself from? What am I stalling? What am I avoiding? And in perfectly aligned fashion with our discussions last week in the podcast, what feeling are you avoiding? This ties right back into that. What feeling are you avoiding in that worry? Sometimes worry, anxiety, some of these feelings that we are so used to experiencing are so much more palatable to us. Not that they feel good to feel, but remember, for your nervous system, safety is familiar. Unsafe is unfamiliar. So oftentimes the thing that you deem as unsafe is good for you. And the things that you deem safe are not good for you. They're just habits. They're just learned behaviors. They're just coping strategies, coping skills that you've been doing for your entire life. So the feeling of worry, I grew up with a worrier, okay? I I grew up with some real good examples of worrying. It has been a go-to strategy for as long as I know. I've seen it. It's what you do. It's a big fat cover up for moving on to doing something that feels scary, new, tests, stretches my confidence in myself. So it really puts myself out there. These questions have been really, really, really helpful for me. So ask yourself that. What are the emotions that I'm so used to experiencing that I almost welcome them in order to avoid feeling another emotion that is new, that is really uncomfortable because it's not one that I'm used to experiencing. So for me, like putting myself out there, if I think back to um it's just over a year, it's not even that long, when I opened up my Instagram. Oh my gosh, the excuses. I don't do Instagram. I don't understand social media. I don't even use social media. I haven't posted. If you look at my Instagram, I haven't posted in a year. I don't know how to do that. I'm completely, what would I say? I'm tech illiterate. I think, no, I'm not tech savvy. Anyways, I I say these words. I used to. I've stopped because I really actually do want to learn now. But like, I'm not tech savvy, like, I am not the most computer literate person, and so I had all these excuses, and it would give me all this anxiety, but what I was doing was stalling, making a move in something that was unknown, and putting myself out there to potentially be rejected. If I open up my social media and I let everybody know that I have these gifts to offer and that I would love to be of assistance to them, and they say, "You suck and you smell," I'll be really sad. And so it was so much easier to just feel anxious and worried about opening the social media rather than addressing you're actually really, really scared of putting yourself out there because they might not like it. And so what I did at that point was I learned to be okay with they might not like it. And that's okay. And then I opened the social media. And then it wasn't that hard. And I'm still learning, but it's fun because I love it, because I love what I do. And I do it for me. And it is a service. I'm here to provide a service, but I'm providing that service through my heart. It is something that I would do for free. So I'm not doing it for someone to be like, yeah, you deserve to do it. But those feelings can be really, really scary when we're stretching ourselves, when we're trying something new. So where Are you potentially falling back on a familiar, uncomfortable feeling that is less uncomfortable than a new feeling? And how can you let this be easy? So that is the message for today. That is the invitation for you for this week, is to ask yourself, take a look, different areas of your life, because I think that this can apply surprisingly to more things that you might think of right away. So maybe actually break it down into different areas of your life. So relationships, your work, friendships, even like chores in the house, like everyday things, like what is the easiest thing that I can do right now? Am I potentially overcomplicating it? And then go in and check out the episode, because the other concepts, the other basics, I think they could be really helpful for you too. I think this is one of those episodes that you might want to come back to, often, and just remind yourself. That's definitely what it was for me. Like, I created it for me as much as I created it for anyone who needs to hear it, because I need to be reminded. Like, we all need these reminders. So write those cue cards, write those sticky notes, put them all over the apartment. I highly recommend having it everywhere that you remember. I literally did this, guys. I downloaded. I'm so bad at holding the camera in like the opposite. Can you see that? Can you see? There's a stick there. For some, you can't see it in the light. There's a sticky note app. It's for the iPad and for the iPhone. And I literally am writing sticky notes for myself for things that like I want in my face. The first thing on there says go with what's easiest. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not just sharing it. Like, I'm really doing these things. Go with what's easiest. If I'm feeling stuck, where can you borrow inspiration? This is that was another one of my husband's suggestions. Focus on my why. Pause, get quiet, move my body, breathe. I have a reminder to breathe. So put your sticky notes up, put your reminders up. Like, what are those back to basics? Like, no matter how deep we're getting, and listen, I'm going to the highest heights with my inner work. Like, there's no stopping me. I'm never not doing inner work for the rest of my life. This is a forever thing. Like, you can ride along with me forever, because I'm not stopping. This is the thing I love the most, and I want to see what my greatest potential, how can I show up in my greatest potential on this planet while I'm here in this physical being. It's a forever goal for me. And so remembering these basics is going to be so important all along the way. So write them down, keep them close to you. If you need help coming up with those basics, or if you really want someone to work through them with you in terms of what are those things, like, I don't even know necessarily what they mean, and I want to understand how to really personalize it for myself. This is a great thing to work on in one-on-one coaching. You can find the link to my coaching in the show notes. You can also find the link in my bio on my Instagram at Coaching with Cree. And this is a really great thing to work on in a one-on-one setting. It's a great thing to have a full list of and determine what are those core things. For me, I'm kind of going back right now to some of the things that I actually developed and learned years ago and almost forgot. As I kept growing, I almost forgot. But for some of us, this is the beginning. And so if you really want help in determining what those things are for yourself, this is a great thing to work on one-on-one. And I would be more than happy to work with you in one-on-one in that. And then if you are more experienced, if you are already deep into your inner work, it's such a powerful thing to deepen, to go back to remember, to like we get too like big for our britches sometimes. Like we've gotten too high up in the sky that we forget where the ground is. So this is another thing to have for grounding. And my coach has been a pivotal a, a pivotal help in terms of me staying on the ground and remembering some really basic things, because the more we know, it's not really the more you know, the more you know. It tends to be the more you know, it kind of gets jumbled up in there and we often forget. So having that grounding, this is such a beautiful thing that a coach can be, that touchstone, that reminder, that as soon as you start to float up, just to be like, okay, well, how can we draw upon our core beliefs? How can we draw upon the things that we know and we trust that are always there, those consistent things? Sometimes the more that we desire, the more that we want to grow, the more that we want to bring things into our life, it can almost seem harder. And it's just a matter of remembering, like, it's the same. What did Abraham Hicks say? It's the same to call in a button as it is a castle. So they're basically saying that manifestation principles are the same no matter what it is, but that's not how it always feels. So having those reminders, having those grounding things, having those people that help you to ground, and whether that is a friend, your spouse, an accountability partner, or a coach. So if that's something that resonates with you and that calls to you, please go ahead and you can set up a 20-minute clarity call for us to figure out exactly what your goals are, what length of time and stuff works best for you. And or you can just go ahead and book a session. I also have human design readings, and the link for that is also in the show notes. And you can go to my Instagram at Coaching with Cree in my bio, and the links to my human design readings are there as well. I hope that you have the most wonderful weekend, the most wonderful rest of your Friday. I want you to really think about what those touchstones are. I would love to see your sticky notes and your cue cards. The more colorful, the better. That's just my suggestion. If it's bright pink and it's bright green and it's bright yellow, then you really want to look at it. So I'm kidding. Like, it doesn't have to be sticky notes, like whatever works for you, but put them there and remember and check out the episode to get you started. Not that you need to use mine, but to get you started if you need something to help you get started, just like my husband's brilliant suggestion. If you're feeling stuck, where can you borrow inspiration? Go ahead and borrow inspiration from me. Episode 24. Back to basics. I love you. I'm sending you so much love. I'm going to go blow my nose and drink some more water. And I hope to see you next week, next Friday, right here, 6 p.m. EST for Friday Night Live Dive. And the new episode is dropping on Monday, 8 a.m. EST. Okay? Ciao!